Hi, Professor Feltgen. My name is Anna Howard Langston, and this is my assignment for online presentation. I decided to do my presentation on the Stand Your Ground law and how controversy it is. And I would like for this law to be revised or changed or updated because it's too broad and a lot of innocent people are being hurt or killed because people are choosing that law. Stand your ground law, self-defense or murder. The stand your ground laws must be repealed because innocent people are being gunned down and or murdered by clueless gun owners who are driven by a paranoid perception of fear, allowing them to shoot first and then claim self-defense. I'm going to go over the Castle Doctrine. I'm going to go over the inequality of the stand your ground law. I'm going to speak about the task force team that Governor Rick Scott generated. And then I'm going to speak about the controversy of this law and the reasons why the law needs to be repealed. The Stand Your Ground law was generated from the Castle Doctrine, which is also a self-defense law that allows people the right to protect themselves, other people, and their property in their home based on a reasonable fear of their life being ended or great bodily harm. They could use force and in some cases deadly force if necessary, depending on the intent of the individual. The Stand Your Ground law allows you to protection not just in your home, but wherever you feel threatened of physical bodily harm, you then have a right to defend yourself wherever you are, based on how you feel at that moment, whereas if you're in danger. We need to understand what self-defense is. What is reasonable self-defense? If you are able to leave the scene of an incident without causing injury or harm, should you do that? And then you have to prove by justifiable legal means that you did use justified self-defense. And when I say reasonable self-defense, if I hit you, you are allowed to hit me. If I slap you, you slap me. If we're in a physical fight, we fight till it's out. But I don't yell at you and then you take your gun out because you have a legal right to have it and you shoot me dead. That doesn't weigh out and it's not equal. That's why the Stand Your Ground law, there's some change that need to be made. And again, as I said before, the Castle Doctrine was fine as a self-defense law the way it was. The Stand Your Ground law allows vigilante justice. It allows people to kill at will. It gives people, criminals, well, not even criminals, it gives people a questionable self-defense claim. And then people are using this law because they're able to go up to a person, shoot them, and then say, oh, I felt in fear of my life. That's why, again, this law is too broad. It has to be changed or repealed. It's not fair to, innocent people walking around the street. As I mentioned earlier, Governor Rick Scott on March of 2012, pre the Trayvon Martin George Zimmerman trial, the incident, he created a 19-member task team of police, lawyers, and Neighborhood Watch. He commissioned them to review the Stand Your Ground law, and then he wanted to see if they could come up with any changes to update it or to revise it. Because again, as I said, it's too broad. But of course, the task force said that the law was fine the way it was. That there was only one revision, was that the 10-20 life law that Florida has should be looked into, as in if you pull out a gun, you get 10 years. If you shoot it, you get 20 years. And if you injure somebody or kill them, you get life. So that was their findings. Again, as I said before, this law is very controversial towards people. It's unequal, and then there's a lot of racial bias behind it. In other words, the law works for some and not for others. I mentioned before the Trayvon Martin George Zimmerman trial, where George Zimmerman was recently acquitted of all charges because the jury believed that he felt very in fear of his life and he was justified in killing and shooting a 17-year-old unarmed teenager on his way home from the store with a soda and some Skittles. Again, the law is not just. Melissa Alexander and Ralph Ward, two separate cases. Both people chose to utilize the Stand Your Ground law. It worked for Mr. Ward, where he shot his wife's lover in his home. he got acquitted, whereas Miss Alexander shot up in the air to defend herself against a known abusive husband. She chose to utilize the stand your ground law. It didn't work for her. In closing, I want to say that I have 4 kids. I myself now don't feel comfortable with these laws being out, because if I walk down the street, or if my children walk down the street, and then somebody they interact with somewhere out there chooses to say that they was in fear of their lives, they have the right, based on this law, to hurt me or my child or you or anybody for that matter. So because of this law is so broad, we all have to come together as civilians, as with the known civil rights in this country, to say this is too much. Let's see what we can do to make this work for everybody. And as I said before, the Castle Doctrine in itself was a great self-defense law, and it should have never been changed or updated. This last slide, which is a slide for my references. Again, this is a preview to my research paper that's due next week. I thank you for your time, and the end.